The July sun hammered down on the dusty train depot in the Wyoming Territory like a blacksmith pounding iron, and Jack Harper felt sweat trickle down his back as he waited on the edge of the weathered platform. In his calloused hands he clutched a small bunch of wild prairie flowers he'd picked at dawn. They were already wilting in the heat. Jack had never carried flowers for anyone in his life, and holding them now made him feel like a damn fool, but he held on anyway. Today was different. The black locomotive thundered closer, belching smoke that rolled across the sky like a long overdue answer to a prayer. For 7 months Jack had been exchanging letters with a woman named Margaret Linden, a librarian from Boston. Quiet, sensible, straightforward, the kind of woman a rancher could count on. Her letters spoke of wanting a simpler life away from the noise and crowds of the city, of being willing to face hard work and harsh seasons. She sounded tough enough for Wyoming winters and endless days on the range. Jack was 40 years old. He'd built Pine Ridge Ranch with his own sweat and stubbornness, 4,000 acres, 300 head of cattle, a sturdy log house with rail glass windows and plank floors. What he didn't have was someone to share it with, no warm voice in the evenings, no one across the table at supper, no children to carry on his name. So he'd done what plenty of men out west did. He placed an ad in a newspaper and waited. The train screeched to a halt. Steam poured over the platform, thick and white, swallowing everything for a moment. Jack straightened his coat, brushed off the dust, and tried to steady his breathing. This was it. Then the steam cleared. The woman who stepped down wasn't Margaret Linden. Jack's stomach dropped like a stone. The woman in front of him was beautiful in a way that didn't belong in a rough frontier town. She wore a deep sapphire silk dress that caught the sunlight and shimmered, fitted at the waist with delicate lace trim. Soft kid leather gloves covered her hands. A wide-brimmed hat sat atop her head, adorned with ribbons and feathers that looked far too fine for this place. She moved with a grace that suggested she'd never once carried buckets of water or scrubbed laundry on a washboard. Her skin was pale and flawless, golden red hair escaping in soft curls beneath the hat. Her face was striking enough to silence the small crowd on the platform. But it was her eyes that stopped Jack cold, hazel green, wide, and unmistakably afraid. She gripped a small beaded reticule as if it were her only anchor. Behind her, a porter struggled with 2 large leather trunks that looked like they belonged in an eastern mansion, not a dusty Wyoming depot. People stared and whispered. Someone muttered she must have boarded the wrong train. Her gaze swept the platform until it landed on Jack, the lone man standing there clutching half-dead flowers like an idiot. Something flickered across her face, recognition, dread, resignation. She walked straight toward him. Jack couldn't move, couldn't find words. She stopped a few feet away, close enough for him to catch the faint, expensive scent of her perfume, something light and floral that didn't belong among cattle and sagebrush. Mr. Harper, she said softly, her voice refined with a faint trace of a southern drawl. Jack Harper of Pine Ridge Ranch. Yes, ma'am, he managed. She extended a gloved hand, formal and completely out of place. My name is Evangeline Locke. I believe you were expecting me. The world tilted. Jack's grip tightened on the flowers until the stems snapped. I was expecting Margaret Linden, he said, voice low. A librarian. Color flooded her cheeks. Her eyes dropped to the planks beneath her boots. Yes, she whispered. About that. Jack knew right then that nothing in his life was going to be simple ever again. He didn't take her out to the ranch, not yet. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to be hashed out in front of half the town. He told the porter to deliver the trunks to the local hotel, paid the man, and led her there himself while whispers trailed them down the street. They sat across from each other in the hotel's small private parlor. Jack set the drooping wildflowers on the table between them like a sad, wilted truce offering. Start talking, he said quietly. And I want the truth. Evangeline slowly peeled off her gloves. Her hands trembled. At her wrist Jack noticed a faint, yellowish bruise that hadn't quite faded. My real name is Evangeline Locke, she began, voice barely above a whisper. Margaret Linden was my companion. She wrote the letters for me. She even sent her photograph. The plan was that by the time I arrived, I would become her. Jack leaned back in his chair, anger and confusion warring inside him. Why? He asked. Her voice broke. Because I had no choice. Because I owed money I couldn't pay. Because powerful men back east were hurting me when I couldn't pay fast enough. She looked up at him then, eyes shining with unshed tears but steady all the same. I'm not who you asked for, Mr. Harper. But I'm here. And I'm asking for a chance to become someone new, someone useful. Someone who might earn her keep. Jack stared at her for a long moment, the wilted flowers sagging between them, the weight of an entirely unexpected future settling over the room like dust after a storm. He exhaled slowly. Well, Miss Locke, he said at last. Looks like we've both got some adjusting to do.